mission, on mission. I'm trying to get it right. Transition, changing the way that I see life. Transition mind. I'm on a mission, trying to get it right. I'm transitioning my life, making a transition. Ooh, making a transition. Ooh, 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 ooh. Making a transition. Ooh, 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 ooh. Making a transition. Ooh, ooh. Turn a mission, I'm on a mission. On a mission, I'm trying to get it right. Changing the way that I see life. Transition in my life. On a mission, on a mission, on a mission.
Welcome. This is Alchemizing Energy, and I'm your host, DJ Genesis. And today I wanted to discuss the actual impacts of AI on the environment. So often we have, we just use ChatGPT. We don't exactly realize how much server space, how much energy that this whole thing is taking. And I have a friend of mine who actually is very specialized in the crypto world as well as the AI world. And his name is Rick, and he's going to actually sit down and kind of discuss the impacts that is happening. Most recently, the Amazon Web Services server went down to the dismay of many people that was using it recently. And people were in a panic. People's Ring doorbells were out, everything. People were tripping, And I think that, and I'm sure that Rick could probably agree with me, is that as they start to kind of bring out more of this AI stuff, we're going to be having more and more of these instances where we have outages, and I wanted to really discuss the resources that are being used with AI and how it will affect how this lack of resources probably will affect us. So without further ado, I'd like to bring to the stage Rick. How's it going, Rick?
How are you?
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? It looks like I'm talking on the thing.
Yeah, I can hear you. Hold on. I'm trying to fix the thing. I'm having trying to fix the actual the layout. Hold on. All right, Rick, go ahead. So what are your understanding of like some of the things that how AI is going to be affected as far as the environment is concerned? Now I have a video I wanted to play and get your opinion of that video. So, but I just wanted to get your opinion before I go into the video.
I think there's environmental effects. Obviously, if you're doing generators and which a lot of data centers have, they have quite large diesel generators, and sort of some of the air conditioning stuff can be quite problematic as well. There's some cases with Bitcoin mining, which is particularly loud. And there's a sort of a complicated reason why Bitcoin mining is so loud compared to AI, where people have sort of complained about that. I think that the water stuff and the power stuff are like frankly more political issues than technical ones. There is a technical issue there, but it's relatively easy to address. It's the politics of it that are a lot more problematic.
So, well, in one place in Mississippi, they are actually there's this whole thing where they're actually using the water for the aquifers to power these new AI data centers. And I guess there's this whole battle going on for the aquifers. And I had a whole argument with the person on my live. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Hi, Ryan. Hi, Jackie. I had a whole argument with a person on my live not too long ago, and he was basically saying that they're not using the water from the aquifers; they're using what you would call blue gold, which is actually the water from inside the earth. Don't you think that there's also implications either way of overusing those resources?
I mean, I, I strongly agree that that municipalities need to manage their resources, and I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like the issue is like Microsoft and Google and Meta and all these people, they shouldn't just be able to just go and bribe a municipality. And when I say I mean should's a funny word, right? But what I'm trying to say is it is the responsibility of those people and their representatives to make sure that those resources are being those are quote unquote their resources to the government controls those resources and they should be regulating this activity. I there's nothing inherent in AI or data centers that causes them to use these types of resources. They're just doing whatever is cheapest, whatever they can, whatever the municipality lets them get away with. So it's not surprising that you hear about this stuff in places like Mississippi, right, where the government's not particularly strong, right?
So why do you think that these companies are just not caring about the people? Do you think it's just such a matter of that they just have, because I know corporations, it's the fiduciary responsibility of the corporation to do what's best for the corporation, So
Yeah,
they
I mean that's all kind of BS, right? I mean, essentially, it's just people being like, I want to harm you for my benefit, and I should be allowed to. And then they sort of use a bunch of words to sort of dance around that. But that's essentially what they're saying. And reality is the people, they're putting these data centers in places where, they're not going to feel the impact. The people who are going to suffer are not the people who are going to experience the benefit of the service. And so the people deploying those services don't feel any ethical obligation to support those people. And it's pretty classic like capitalism stuff. My only point is really like I'm not saying that that's good. I don't want to sound dismissive as if that I think that's okay or I think that's good. I think it's pretty horrible, but it's just not unique to AI. It's the horribleness that you see in capitalism, pretty regularly.
Right, but it seems like the amount of resources that this particular AI can hog, especially fundamental resources like drinking water. I mean, Jesus Christ, what I mean, you're gonna take the water that people drink out of and they're farming out of to power your AI plants, and then that water could end up drying up, and then people won't have any drinking water in those for that whole area. And just because you want to have AI, well, who's going to be able to use the AI if all the people are dead?
Well, this is what I'm trying to get at. I mean, this is sort of the more subtle point that I'm getting. The people who use the AI are not the people whose livelihoods are at risk. They're different. They're different. To your point, yes, they people. So the people who make the AI don't care if some farmer, some thousands of miles away, ends up dying of
Lead
lack of
poisoning.
water.
Well, you know what? Well, lack of drinkable water, because what'll happen is that what's happening now. My friend, he lives out in Tallulah, so with all of the drilling and everything it takes to create these plants, all his water now he had to buy an $8,000 pump or a filtration system in order to be able to filter his water. So
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
and that's because he lives in a weak municipality who doesn't provide him any protections. And I'm not trying. I don't want to. I'm not trying to blame the victim here. I'm not, and I'm not defending the companies. I'm just saying there's already a solution to this problem, and that's to have functional governance at the municipal level. That's the solution to the problem.
Wow. So, what are your thoughts on the outage that just happened with Amazon? What do you think that caused that, and do you think that we're going to be experiencing more of that the more that they begin to take the resources from AI for AI for to power these plants and this nuclear power that they're trying to convert and stuff like that, the
I
grid
don't.
and all.
I'm very excited about the nuclear power stuff. As an aside, I'm actually very pro nuclear power and very pro powering AI with small modular reactors. I think that's actually a really great solution to the problems that you were just discussing. Um, I don't think much about the outage. I haven't looked at the outage. I haven't done. I was in California at the time, so it didn't really impact me too badly. I don't think those sorts of outages are going to particularly increase because of AI. I just think that I mean, I think also the other thing, and part of the reason I think that is because you see these press releases, you see all these materials we've raised, $300 billion, blah blah. That's all kind of, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Like when I see that they've spent $300 million, $300 billion, that's when I'll, believe it. I don't think that I think that you can't build enough nuclear power plants fast enough. You can't, set up enough natural gas generators fast enough. It's not really going to cause the growth that the people are claiming, because it's just you can't build that fast. They've invested far faster than is possible to build. So it's a lot of hype. Um, and I think that it's hard to parse. I mean, I spent some time trying to figure out. I mean, again, because to me the number making sense, and so I did a little research, and it was like, oh yeah, of course, people were very quick to point out these are basically fake numbers, and the real cap on AI growth, of the physical infrastructure is much lower than what these proposals are. They're trying to, they're being speculative, and they're trying to get people excited in the marketplace. It's not a real actionable plan.
So what do you think about the fact that like that even in our US government, like that the government is being affected by Trump, like laying off a bunch of people and wanting to replace them with AI? Do you think that that is going to be successful, or do you think that they might be preemptive because AI is not that stable enough to be able to really handle all this?
Yeah, I mean, they're just using AI as an excuse. I mean, they have an objective, which is we want to reduce the power of the federal government and distribute it to oligarchs for a fee. So, Trump basically wants to take government function, privatize it, and get personally paid, which we would have previously basically considered a bribe, uh, to do it. And people voted for him. I didn't vote for him, but the people who voted for him, I mean, he was very transparent about about these goals that he had, which is why I didn't vote for him. I didn't
Right.
think I did. I thought he was very explicit about what his intentions were, and his previous behavior I thought was pretty clear. And so this is what people voted for. He is doing what he said he would do. Um, and so I don't know why people are upset about that, who voted for him. And that it seems as though, I mean, he also technically didn't win the majority vote, but you know, whatever, that's a whole separate issue. Like people people who voted for him do appear, I'm not out here polling myself, but people do appear to be upset to discover that Trump is actually doing the stuff he said he would do. And yeah,
Mm.
AI is just an excuse for that. And you also have to sort of prop up the stock market. So it's very strategic. It's actually quite intelligent. It's sophisticated and nuanced. Even though Trump, blathers and says crazy stuff, like when you like don't listen to him talk, but actually like read about the impacts of these policies and stuff, it's very clear what's going on, and it's very effective. Um, to my slight disappointment. Um, and yeah, I think they're just trying to reduce the federal government, sort of along the Tea Party lines. I don't think it's hard. It's hard for me to. I don't see that there's anything inherently wrong. If your literal statement is I want to reduce the federal government, I would say okay, that's a fine statement. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's not really, even though that's what they're saying, their statement is really they're saying we want to reduce the federal government, we want to privatize functions, we want to indenture, if not outright enslave, a certain percentage of Americans and foreigners. We want to illogically renounce the notion of citizenship so that we can enslave, I mean, like pretty literally enslave people. That's really upsetting. I'm really opposed to that. And so it's sort of like, well, they say, oh, we're reducing the federal government. It's like, well, maybe that is happening, but more importantly, you're also actively attempting to enslave people, which I'm adamantly and vehemently against, both domestically and abroad. So you know, I don't pay attention to things like, oh, because of AI, we're able to lay off this many federal workers. That's not true. That's not a real thing.
So you don't think that so you haven't heard about AT&T off and Microsoft also laying off people based on AI? So those things aren't true as well?
Those are just, again, it's just, those are just excuses. There's nothing there. I mean, obviously they're laying people off for real, but it's not because AI is extremely effective. The efficacy of AI in these tasks is greater, but well, Microsoft is a different case. But AT&T, I'm a little surprised. I don't honestly know what staff they would be laying off because of AI, but I doubt that it's. I think those are just people they've been waiting to lay off for some time.
So you think they're using AI is a excuse now they're using to have a bunch of it says AI has AT&T has been laying off staff as a part of a broader cost-cutting strategy that includes the use of artificial intelligence. While AI is a contributing factor, the layoffs are also driven by the company's $8 billion cost reduction program, a shift to a market-based culture.
Yeah, I mean that's all
In
business
general,
speak.
automation and digitization within the telecommunication industry.
Right.
So
They
it
just
says,
want to sound like they are paying attention. So they use the word AI to describe activity that's been going on long before OpenAI and agentic on all, Chat GPT and all this stuff. It's not because of that. It's because of these other long existing automation objectives.
Wow. So let me. So also, did you see the? What do you think of? What do you think this cool that Donald Trump, the U.S. president, would put out an AI video of an airplane pooping on people?
I mean, again, people voted for, and I'm not saying this as if, oh, I'm better than you, or poo-pooing on people, or making fun of them for doing this. I'm just stating what I think are facts. I'm just trying to make factual statements. People voted for a WWF character.
Right.
The Trump persona that's so effective now is a persona he developed on a primetime wrestling. So no, I'm not particularly shocked that a primetime wrestling character, it's fake, it's a character, um, releases content of airplanes pooping on people. No, I'm not particularly surprised by that.
For those who haven't seen the video, I'm about to play it right now. Check this out, you guys. That wow, how childish! Now this is the
I mean,
president of the what which is supposed to be the powerful nation, right?
yeah,
I
but
want
we're obviously selling all of that, right? All of that power, all of that international power is for sale, right? We're liquidating. It's an estate sale. We're selling it off. So, part of selling it off is making jokes where you have jets pooping on people. I mean, that makes sense to me. It's consistent.
but you know what?
I
But Jet's pooping on its own people, though, on your own American people, because
it's not my sense of humor. It's not.
yeah.
I don't think it's appropriate on multiple levels. But I see why people would like that right away. I mean, it's very obvious to me why people would love that and be very excited that they saw that, and that they'd be talking about it at work and be like, "Oh, that was so funny! Ha ha ha! Isn't that great?" I mean, I think he knows his base. I think he knows,
I think it's kind of embarrassing. I mean, the free, other countries are looking at this and seeing that, and it's like, what, who do you think? Do you think he has a lot of young people creating these AI videos, and he's just
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah,
of course. I mean, he's not doing any of this work. I mean, The actual work is being done by probably unpaid interns and, you know, things like this, things of this nature.
You think he's approving?
Grossly.
Like, do you think he saw it before it went out, or you think that he is other people like just approving of his team that says, "Yeah, this is the image we want to put out." You know,
I think there's certain key messages that he approves, but he probably, I would, if someone told me he didn't even approve that, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
wow. Where someone says Trump wears an adult diaper, so it's actually, maybe that's what was the poop that comes out of his own diaper. Let's go into this. So I want to go into a quick video that's kind of discussing the current situation of the environment and AI and how it's affecting the environment. Let's go.
To win the AI revolution, the amount of data centers that they are opening is growing exponentially. This requires increasing amounts of fresh water and energy. In 2023 alone, Google used the equivalent of 1/8 of Lake Athabasca to cool their data centers. And Microsoft recently committed to restarting nuclear reactors like 3 Mile Island, the site of the 1978 partial nuclear meltdown, to create enough energy for their growing amount of AI-intensive data centers. Now, there is a lot of talk right now about the future potential of AI. I'm working on a video about Google Mind and AlphaFold's ability to create breakthrough medications, and there's a ton of excitement and optimism in other spaces too. But one thing we know for sure about AI right now is that Microsoft, Tesla, Meta, all these companies, they're building massive amounts of data centers in order to power their AI systems in their race to monopolize artificial intelligence, and this will have a huge impact on our futures. AI technology relies on data centers that require so much energy that they get so hot that they need water pumped through them to be cooled in order to function. This is a Google data center. Those colorful pipes, those aren't wires. That's kind of what I thought initially. Those are pipes of cold, clean water which flow through the system, keeping the technology from overheating. In 2023 alone, Microsoft data centers consumed 7.8 million cubic meters of fresh water, up 34% from the year before, because of how many more data centers they were running to power their new AI technology pursuits. The water that cools and cleans the technological systems needs to be free of impurities, bacteria, debris, and dirt. This is the reason why these data centers rely on fresh water for cooling. The water needs to be extremely clean. Therefore, the water is taken from the same sources that we use to drink, cook, and wash with. So how much water are you consuming every time you use an AI technology like ChatGPT? Based on Microsoft's 2022 annual report on fresh water used for cooling systems, asking ChatGPT 3 10 to 55 questions or prompts uses roughly 500 milliliters of fresh water. I think this is important to know and remember that when you're using AI technology like ChatGPT, there is an environmental impact. It makes sense that we haven't really thought about this that much. Companies aren't talking about this as they expand their AI initiatives. Amazon is planning to spend $100 billion in the next 10 years to build data centers around the world, consuming massive amounts of energy and water. In fact, earlier this year, they secured the approval to build 2 new data centers near Santiago, Chile. Santiago, Chile, I have been there once, that's why I know how to say it so well, is already a water-stressed city. So there has been mass protests and concern as people are wondering where this fresh water is going to come from, because it's likely going to come from their personal freshwater sources.
So here's the thing, is that they are basically, $10 billion into a facility, and it's just like the people are just going to have to suffer.
Well,
because
again, respectfully, I do think that's bad, and I do think that I think that you should put pressure on the companies that are doing this, absolutely, but the people on the ground should also be putting pressure on those municipalities. And I think that these, again, if you have nuclear power, you can distill water. You can use distilled water created from a nuclear power plant to be used in these systems. There's all sorts of ways that you can address these issues, and I think that, so I think that it's. The other problem with this, I don't like how this is reported, because it's not. There's a bias in the reporting that's pretty clear. Like, for example, like when you use these AI systems, you pay for them. Like I use them. I pay a lot of money every month to use AI systems. So I know how much how much cents I'm paying per message. And in that cost is the cost of the water. The water cost in dollars is reflected in the price that I pay to use the AI. So if the municipality isn't charging the Microsoft or whomever enough money, now that's certainly in part because of deals and things that I take issue with on some level, but ultimately it's not. you have to push on both sides. You have to say, okay, the company is acting inappropriately and the government is acting inappropriately, and you have to figure out as a human being, how am I going to interact with the government? How am I going to interact with this corporation to get them to engage in more long-term thinking, which is what I'm concerned with as an individual, right? I mean, I think that would be the real like impactful version of that video, not like get people riled up for no reason. Like that honestly makes me think it's like, a psyop or something, to be frank. Like actually have a clear call to action, actually have a clear thing that you can do as an individual to have an impact on this problem if you actually care about, if you really care about the problem. I don't
Yeah,
want, I don't
I
want to
think
see.
toward the end of the video, he's going to do that. Like we only got like about
Yeah.
maybe a couple one more minute in. He's going to kind of go into that and say what the purpose of the video is. I just wanted to hear what your thoughts are of the $100 billion plants. The places that they plan on opening up these data centers, and then the locations that they happen to be opening up them up in seem to be places that are already resource like struggling, not even have enough resources themselves.
Yeah, I don't think that's accurate. They're going to place data centers where they can get the most traffic from people. They want to have an optimal distance for the people and the lowest price, right? So obviously you can't put data centers in the middle of New York City. The real estate's too high, so too expensive, right? So you put it in rural New Jersey, right? I mean, that's how data centers have worked. That's how they will continue to work. They are in these rural areas, but oftentimes they are, if you do a speed of light, fiber line, they are close to major metropolitan areas because that's where people are actually using the services.
Why haven't they figured out how to do this in the ocean versus like putting it into where our
They
drinking
have,
water?
they have. So Microsoft ran an experiment. You can go Google it. It's pretty well known. It's pretty interesting. It's a great question on your part. So Microsoft ran data center equipment for a number of years in a sealed container that they had submerged, in a dock essentially. So it was directly interacting with seawater, and the total cost of operation, even though the highest single cost of cooling was significantly offset, the total cost of operation was not significantly offset, and they decided to not move forward with the project because running your computer in the ocean is more complicated than running it on a rack in a data center, right? So the costs of that ate into the things from the power essentially.
Wow. So they said, well, that was too hard to do that. So we'd rather, because it's easier to do it this way at the detriment of people and of humanity.
Well, it's more cost effective because municipalities are not properly pricing their water.
Right. But that's crazy though. Like, well, because you guys aren't pricing your water, we're going to take advantage of it. We don't care if we affect you guys because AI.
Well, yeah, I mean that's just normal capital. That's just normal capitalism, though. That's normal free market economics. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think I obviously it upsets me, but it upsets me in a much broader sense. I'm not focusing on AI as this problem. In general, we undervalue the commons with the modern economic system. We undervalue the air, we undervalue the ground, we undervalue the water. And that has nothing to do with AI. We just do that generally.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So let's watch a little more of this video because I wanted to get your idea on the rest of what he has to say in this. So let's go.
In the Dalles, Oregon, I've never been there, I don't know if it is pronounced Dalles, Google has 3 data centers, and 1/4 of the city's water supply is being consumed by these 3 data centers, and they're planning to build 2 more. There has been a lack of regulation and standards about knowing how much water these data centers are consuming, because this is all quite new technology, but we are getting more transparency than ever before. Based on estimates from 2022, a mid-sized data center uses about 300,000 gallons of water a day, equal to the water consumption of about 100,000 homes. Microsoft recently announced it had signed a 20-year deal to purchase energy from the dormant 3 Mile Island nuclear reactor, the one that had a meltdown in the 1970s. The reason was to create nuclear energy to power their growing need for data centers in their AI race. Now, I am all for this. I'm all for nuclear energy, but this is only being used to power data centers. These nuclear reactors aren't being used to create energy for us. This is all at a time when we're trying to figure out how to get energy that isn't going to be burning fossil fuels. But again, these nuclear reactors are just powering data centers. But as stated earlier, I do think that AI can be very important in specific fields. AlphaFold, an AI system developed by Google DeepMind, won a Nobel Prize in chemistry because, among other things, it can predict and design protein structures. This AI technology could see breakthroughs in our understanding of disease, create new medicines, and all of this we would not be able to do without assistance of AI. AI, in theory, can help renewable energy systems become more efficient. But at the same time, one of our biggest issues as humanity is the climate crisis and water scarcity. So we need to balance the pros and cons of AI right now, as all of these companies sort of skyrocket creating these data centers, to make sure they don't do more harm than good. I think this video is just about us understanding. I'm back in school right now doing my master's, and lots of people are just using ChatGPT all the time. I think it's good for us to think about the water consumption that goes along with us using ChatGPT in our day-to-day life. I think we need to put pressure on these companies to figure out ways to maybe reuse this water or have the fresh water end up in productive places like on farms. Hopefully.
So here we go. So there goes the answer that he said, that you said he's not giving a solution. There goes the solution. Is there a way? Do you think that they thought of a way to take the water and recycle it back into the community in some kind of a way once they use it?
I mean, it's obviously gonna cost more money to do that, right? So again, I mean, when people say so broadly, right? I grew up in the 80s. I grew up around a bunch of hippies. Conservation, saving water, sort of these memes from California. I grew up in Michigan, but as an adult, I moved to California at one point in my life, where I really saw like the home of a lot of these narratives. Where do these ideas come from? They come from California in large part, where they have a very particular like there's a very particular dispute happening, and that's where a lot of American conservation happens, and then somehow those memes end up being discussed in places where they're irrelevant, like New York State, where you have Niagara Falls, or Michigan, where you have the Great Lakes, or whatever. I think that, again, the sort of orthodox solution needs to be explored before we explore the heterodox solutions. And the orthodox solution is to charge people properly for the water that they're using, right? If the municipality was properly pricing the cost of the water, then whatever this guy is suggesting in terms of water usage and reusage and have you would be built into that price. Now, are the people in that municipality going to be able to lobby, be sophisticated enough to go fight Google or Microsoft or whatever and say, this is how our water should be used? Well, that's the exercise. That's the challenge. Challenge is getting those people who say, my water bill skyrocketed. This has happened. Those are real consequences that they're experiencing, poisoning, whatever, all these things that are really happening to them. You say, okay, well, we have a solving that problem, and that's like voting and going and creating new laws. And he's saying that, right? I don't think this guy's like particularly bad. Like, he is saying all that stuff, right? So it's like, but that is the answer. The answer is price the water properly, get laws in place to price the water properly, use the existing laws that are probably not being utilized to price the water properly, and do it that way. But you're not gonna, I guess I'm really not a fan of conservation. I think conservation is a psyop. Like, I think that you can be responsible and a good steward of the land and a good steward of the environment without trying to argue with some dude that he needs to stop doing this or stop doing that. Like, that's not a good rhetorical technique, right? That's not a good way of getting someone to do what you ask them to do. So that's why I'm not into conservation, because I think it just pisses people off for no reason.
So, what do you think the rise? Okay, so the next situation I wanted to kind of go over with you um, is we're discussing the hidden fees that actually occurred with AI. So we're losing our jobs, but yet all of our utilities are going to go up. So let's go into
electric bill gone up. Started asking my neighbors, is your bill also going up? And they had no idea that this was happening.
If you live in any of these states, your electric bill is higher this summer. It's not because of anything you did. You're paying more because the world's biggest tech companies are building so many data centers.
I do guess that a lot of the world gets covered in data centers over time, but I don't know, because maybe put them in space.
Is this something where we are...
My bad, guys. I was trying to speed it
A
up.
lot of the world gets covered.
He said they were
We're building so many data centers.
I do guess that a lot of the world gets covered in data centers over time, but I don't know, because maybe put them in space.
Is this something where we are committed to building out data centers across our 60 regions? We're absolutely going to.
Big tech's quest for artificial intelligence is creating a tidal wave of new costs that are about to hit all of us, even if you live nowhere near a data center.
The big problem is that we're all subsidizing the wealthiest corporations in the world in their pursuit of artificial intelligence.
Americans' utility bills are rising while big tech's profits are going through the roof.
We traveled into data center country and found a hidden wealth transfer. Everyday people covering the power costs of the data center build out. Companies like Amazon and Meta striking secret deals with utilities.
It's all proprietary. It's all behind non-disclosure agreements and blacked out documents.
And lobbying for a system that leaves all of us footing their bill, unless we do something about it.
So I've always paid attention to my electric bill, mainly for environmental friendly reasons. I wanted to make sure I'm not using too much light, and what room am I using the most light?
Cassandra Linez lives in northern New Jersey.
And we don't have to go all into her story, but that's the main. So what about this? What about now, okay, with the current situation where the economy is being kind of like shimmied down, jobs are going to become scarce. AI is now becoming a resource hog. And then they are charging us pretty much to power their facility. They're
Right.
raising our bill to power their facility.
Well, again, the goal is to enslave as many people as possible, so that's not particularly shocking, right? I mean, get nickel and dime you every single way they possibly can, right? I mean,
so what is the whole objective? Do you think it's to? I mean, because where is this whole thing going? I mean, if the people don't have jobs, they don't have any money, they can't pay their electric. Where is this whole thing going? Who is going to be using AI?
not these people. I mean, you're sort of thinking about it like, I mean, I don't know. It's not these people. They don't care. Like, why does the CEO of Microsoft care about this person in New Jersey? This person isn't going to buy $4 million of. He probably doesn't even, his eyelids probably don't even move if you're talking about less than $10 million. So why would he care about this person? When is this person going to contribute $10 million to his bottom line? Like, why is it relevant? Like, why does this person care?
I mean, and you talk to a lot of people with money. Are they really that crass? Is it just really just about numbers to them? You've worked with people.
Ironically, the people with less money I would argue, are more crass about it. But the short answer is they're very polite when they have these conversations with you. But it's very charming. It's sometimes you take a double take. You're like, wait, you just said what to me? That was really polite, but I think you just told me you want me to die in a fire. I'm not sure that's what you just said. But I think that's what you just said to me.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, I mean, they're essentially, I think in the case of AI and its impact on these municipalities, imagine Microsoft destroys 50 towns in America and then sells AI to the US military, who then sells its services to Israel, who then, whatever, right? Like, off of this. And it's fine if, these other people's lives are ruined in the process. But again, that's not AI. That's just how capitalism works. And I'm not trying to be critical of capitalism. I'm just pointing out this isn't unique to AI.
But I mean, with any new technology, you're gonna have like some I guess that middle part where, you know, things are kind of like working itself out. And so people are going to be worried about that. You know, okay, well, where do we fit in as human beings with this whole upheaval, right?
I think those people are essentially worried about the wrong thing. I think it's a valid thing to be worried about, but it's not number one on my list. I mean, if I made, you know, if I made 5 figures annual income, you know, this would not be the first issue on my list. Well, let me rephrase. My power bill would be high on my list, but the
Hello.
fact that it's hi, I'm still here. Did I drop?
Yeah. And I was saying hello. Like you're saying that if you
Oh,
were making like 12,000 a year, that this wouldn't affect me. Yes, if your
oh
bill
yeah,
goes up, it's going to definitely affect you.
yeah. So that I would be concerned with, but I'd be concerned with like the AI stuff is just like a detail, right? It's like it kind of isn't that important. The important thing is that I live in a municipality and I pay a power bill where some rich person can show up and jack up my bill for no reason. I mean, it doesn't matter that it's AI, it doesn't matter that it's Microsoft. It matters that the relationship between me as a citizen and my municipality is bad. That's a bad relationship. That's what matters. And you'll see
Mm.
bad relationship in other ways. You're gonna see it impact you as a citizen in other ways. And so that's what I would be concerned with. I would be concerned with, am I living in a system of governance that is actually supporting me, and are my tax dollars being put to my use, or you know, for my benefit, or are my tax dollars being used to benefit people, you know, who aren't who aren't taxpayers essentially.
Well, like I said, Baba Yashbai, he lives out in Tallulah, right next to Mississippi, and that whole Mississippi aquifer, it provides water and I think water for farming and drinking water for like four different, I think like the whole region, like the whole area. And so
Yeah.
a lot of people are really worried about that. But you got to think that these are rural towns. A lot of people, like an older population. You know, Baba, he's about 80 something years old. You know, so I think that they knew where to go. They knew where to go.
Oh, of
This
course. I mean, but it's economics, right? I mean, they know where to go because it's just where it's a very simple optimization problem. They need to keep their costs down. So they just went to a place where they could keep their costs down. It's that simple. You know what I mean? It's not some deep conspiracy. It's not some complicated plot. They're just like, we're a business. We keep our costs down. This is where we could go where we kept our costs down. Done and done.
Well, you know what? That matter of factness is just crazy. That's you know. So let's discuss jobs. Okay, let's get back to the job situation. Um, where do you see? What do you forecast as far as what you know about AI? How do you think it will affect jobs in the future? And what do you think people should be doing to at least secure themselves? Do you think everybody should kind of get into is going to be forced to become blue collar? What are your projections?
Oh, that's tricky. I mean, I think that there's a certain class of white collar job that is really software being one of them. Software, accounting, certain financial services, obviously call center jobs, right? These things are going to be the most impacted right away. And and what you're really going to see is like both law. I don't know about accounting, but law and software both are very much up and out kind of systems where you don't just get like inflation adjusted. Well, let me. You're the way that you really move up. At some point, you hit a ceiling, and it's a pretty hard ceiling. And a lot of people make a decision to change their career, or they just never really make as much money as they thought they would because they hit the ceiling sooner than they thought they would. And that's true of software, that's true of law, that's true of other industries. In those industries where you have a broad base of a lot of people, but at the top there's a few people, and this is a lot of industries, right? And it's professional. It's the qualifications take years to acquire, right? People, some of these people have PhDs, some of the, JD takes 4 years of college, whatever it is, 2-3 years of law school, right? Like, these people are going to be really squeezed, like right away, and they're going to need to figure out how to provide value. Like, if you just graduated from law school, like, you're screwed. If you just graduated with just a BS in computer science, you're in pretty bad shape. I think that AI is going to impact those people and impact those industries. But I think what's going to happen ultimately is AI is just going to make people more productive, not reduce the number of people necessary. And so as people adapt to these tools, and they're not, I mean, they're useful tools, but they're not magic, right? I mean, we don't have some magic. There's a whole reason. The reason OpenAI talks about AGI all the time is because it's in their contract with Microsoft, not because it makes any sense. Besides that, I mean, it's sort of like I don't even want to get into the details of that. Like, AI right now is really good at doing certain types of language transformations, which embodies a lot of certain types of work. And we didn't have that capability before. And yeah, those industries are going to be impacted. The broader economy, I think, is necessarily going to be that impacted by AI. I think it's really more about how American oligarchs are positioning themselves, and they're using AI as an excuse more than the AI technology itself actually having the direct impact.
So you think that this whole scare of jobs being lost is not necessarily because of AI? It's that they're just using AI as an excuse to lay off a bunch of people.
Yeah, I mean, that AT&T press release that you read, I mean, basically it was like almost said that verbatim. When you translate the out of it, they're like, well, we were going to lay off people anyway, but since AI is popular, we're going to blame it on AI. I mean, that's almost exactly what they said.
That's pretty much is what they said, huh? And they closed, they mass layoffs, and they said AI investment plans. They're trying to say that that's what it is. They're investing in AI.
Right, but the reason they're putting that in the press release is so that traders, are going to trade on the news that AT&T is interested in, is working on AI. That's really what they're trying to accomplish with that press release. Whatever.
So, can we get a little bit before we close up? We're getting closer to an hour. Can we get into crypto and how crypto is going to be? I guess people are trying to say that crypto is going to be the new currency, and how do you think that that's going to be handled? Do you think there's going to be a universal what's it called? A universal
like a crypto as a reserve currency, like Bitcoin as a reserve currency of a global.
No,
reserve?
like a universal, like instead of us, almost similar to like you get like a universal. Everybody gets like a paycheck by the government every month, so that way
UBI, universal basic income.
Yeah, universal basic income, but they're gonna use the crypto to do it, and then that way it can account for the fact that everybody's not that lost their job through AI. Because basically no one has a job. Everybody's just, or they probably at some point they're going to probably make people work for these plants to power AI, and they have a universal basic income that they work or whatever they do, and they have a stipend or whatever. Kind of getting more into would be a communistic or a socialistic government where is that socialism or communism?
That's not communism. It's socialism, but I I'm pretty much in favor of UBI. I think UBI is absolutely necessary. I think that the current Trump and general right-leaning people at the moment are not very interested in UBI.
They're not interested
So
in you. It
yeah,
seemed like
I
that's what they're
think there's
moving for. They take all the jobs away from everybody, and then everybody goes broke.
no. That's what I'm saying. Those are separate groups. That's what I'm trying to get at. Those are two different
Okay.
groups. There's one group
Okay.
of people who are like, let me get this money. I don't care about jobs. And there's another group of people that are like, yeah, let's get this money, but how do we stop these people from rioting when we take all their money? And those people are like, well, use UBI to do that. And I think that's, I mean, you just have to think about, I think UBI is great. Like, I'm a really big UBI proponent. I've worked on UBI projects in my work. I think using crypto to enable UBI is very important. I think that it's a generational shift. I don't think that you can take a 40-year-old person now. If you have a 40-year-old right now who's making $30K a year at a job, I don't think you can say, hey, in 2027, you're not going to have a job. You're going to make $50K a year, and it's only going to be from UBI. I think that person would lose their shit. Like, I don't think that person is going to be functional and be making good decisions for themselves or their community in that sort of environment, right? You have to roll it out over a long period of time so that people can adjust their expectations to the fact that they don't need to work for a living. But that's the question. The question is, so while on one hand we have people talking about UBI, we have Trump making detention centers for citizens to have them working in there making shoes and shit, which is slavery, which is straight up slavery. Straight up saying you're no longer a citizen, we're enslaving you forever. So that's an alternative to UBI.
Right. So do you that's another thing, because that's what it seems like. That's what I mean, opening up more, especially for homeless people, because I think he's making it so that if you're homeless, then they just pass a thing that they can say, okay, you're mentally ill, and they can put you into a camp or institutionalize you, and Lord knows what happens to you after that. So, it's an interesting situation that we find ourselves in, right?
Yeah, UBI is one of the best options available, because again, the other options on the table right now are damn near, if not actually, slavery. So it's like, well, people,
they said if you were born after like 1972, then the Social Security age just raised up 1 year to 68. So now you got to work all the way. You can't retire until you're damn near 70 years old.
I mean, that's a Ponzi scheme, and we may or may not decide to keep it rolling. And I'm not relying on Social Security. I just act like that's just money that just flies out my pocket and is never coming back. That's how I think about it. I don't think like, oh, let me look at my Social Security now and figure out what it's going to be worth when I'm not retiring. I'm not getting Social Security. Like, none of that stuff's happening for me. I'm not worried about any of it. It's just not happening.
Right. Right. So you think you think that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme?
I mean, it kind of literally is. And I just think the boomers are going to kill it. I just don't think it's going to survive the boomers, frankly. TLDR.
Wow. So let's get back into crypto before we this will be the last question. From a crypto standpoint, what do you think is how important do you think it is for people to, because I know that crypto seems to be gambling to me. You know what I'm saying? But maybe it's not. Maybe it is. I don't know. Crypto just appears to be gambling.
I mean, you should definitely be dollar cost averaging $5 or $10, whatever you can afford. Really, you should be dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin as part of an investment portfolio. Absolutely. I mean, you should own property and Bitcoin. Property, Bitcoin stocks, like that would be a reasonable portfolio. That's not my personal portfolio does not include stocks, but that's a complicated. There's a lot of reasons for that. It should have more stocks in it than it does.
Do you think with the current how things are going technologically, especially before people kind of run out of money, should they invest in Bitcoin so that they could probably at least have more money, to probably survive off of through investment?
Well, in any era, you need an investment, credible investment that's going to outpace inflation at a minimum, right? And inflation can be quite high at times. And in the current situation, if Bitcoin is a better inflation hedge than stocks, it's generally a better inflation hedge than gold, like over its total lifetime. And so that's, you have to cover that. You have to cover your hedge against inflation, and you have to, have something sustainable. I don't think, I guess I'm a Bitcoin maxi in the sense of you have to solve these problems in your planning for the future. And there's just not that many options. And, Vanguard funds on the stock side, S&P 500, tech stocks, like thinking through these things at a high level and just not becoming a gambler, but really thinking through the investments. That's really hard. That's really hard to do. It's time consuming. It's easy to get wrong. I've gotten it wrong. I have friends who've gotten it wrong. I know people who are very intelligent and just because of life circumstance, ended up in a bad stock situation. But I think that, $1 million Bitcoin is not crazy, right? The question, when someone tells you, oh, we're going to have $1 million Bitcoin, the next question should be, well, what's it cost for a gallon of milk? And, I think that that's definitely going to happen in my later life, but later in my life, there will be $1 million Bitcoin.
Right, and how much? Yeah, how much of this? If the gallon of milk costs $1 million, you ain't got nothing.
Right, exactly. $1 million Bitcoin and like a $10 or $15 gallon of milk.
Wow, wow. So, how do you make sure that you don't get scammed with a lot? Because everybody's always promoting what the new coin is or a new digital.
Just ignore all that. That's straight gambling, and Bitcoin is a different type of gamble, but that's just you. The thing is when you're in the space, you figure out what type of bet you're taking and like how deranged and crazy that bet is. But it's not a question of if it's deranged and crazy. The question is how deranged and how crazy is the bet. And that's a skill, it's hard to acquire that skill. It's not easily acquired. And people thinking that they're gonna, I put in $50 on this thing, and it's literally like a lottery ticket. Like people, and again, these companies, these retail investment companies like Robinhood, just to name one. I don't want to pick them out, but they're just a well-known one. But all these companies make money the more degenerate of a gambler you are. And that's what they're going to encourage you to do. They're going to encourage you to be a degenerate gambler, and it's your responsibility as an adult with agency to resist that urge and to actually make quality investments instead of gambling like a lunatic. That's the challenge. Good luck. Good luck to all of us. Like, it's not easy.
Right. Anybody that's in it is probably doing a little bit of gambling. So, okay. So just to kind of close this whole thing out, we did mention ChatGPT and the fact that just using ChatGPT alone causes you to use it. It takes up so much resources, right? What is it like? Gallon?
It is a negligible.
Like a gallon of water. But I know my ChatGPT is not. I'm paying for ChatGPT, but I don't think it's a gallon of water worth of chat. Say it like. What do you think?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. I don't think the conservation angle, like people being like, oh, I want to conserve. I think that's for the people who feel that way. Go ahead, that argument works. But if you don't basically already believe that argument is like really ineffective. So I just say it's really about the price, because that's easier for people to wrap their heads around, frankly.
Okay, and so and you're also saying, say a person watches this that is in an area where a data center is going to be or close to certain, even places like Memphis. I think that they're getting sick off of the gas fumes or something like that from the
Yeah.
data center. Uh, how much of a in danger to the health when you have those fumes coming out of those data centers?
Well, it's not the fumes from the data center. It's the fume from the diesel generator or the fume from the natural gas uh, generator or something like this. And those fumes are obviously super dangerous.
I mean, hell, you're doing AI. How come they haven't asked AI a better way to get energy to fuel the center? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's a question that I've
Using
actually
AI
been looking into.
Yo, really? Because I'm like, how are you going to be using AI and still using fossil fuel?
Well, China has more nuclear reactors. I mean, the answer is to restart up the nuclear reactor industry. We're going to run out of uranium. So we don't even have enough uranium really to power the AI the way people are talking. So that's how you kind of know they're full of it, because we certainly don't want to power it with fossil fuel, whether we have enough of it or not. As you pointed out, the real environmental impact on people not being able to breathe is so high that we're not going to power all these data centers with fossil fuels and carbon emitting solutions. So solar is viable. All the zero emission technologies are viable, but nuclear is obviously the best one by far. Thorium reactors. I'm looking at fusion reactors. I'm really interested in fusion reactors right now. But SMRs, small modular reactors for nuclear, are the 15, 20-year range solution to the problem. And there isn't really anything close. Like it's basically just nuclear, and then like maybe solar somewhere in there. But
yeah. What happened to solar? Like, what's up with solar? I mean, that seems.
It just doesn't have great properties in terms of density. I mean, nuclear blows it out of the wall. I mean, it's like orders of magnitude, right? I mean, but and it's hard to imagine a place where you could use solar and nuclear wouldn't just be better. Like a modern good reactor is just going to be better. And
but
we
then
have the fuel.
Uranium, and see, there's not enough uranium. So
yeah, but we have the fuel for that. We have the fuel for that for like 20, 30 years. Right.
Okay.
But these people are talking about plans where you're like, well, how are we going to spend, when you look at the money that they're talking about, it's longer than a 30-year plan. So you're like, well, what are you really talking about? And you gave that money to OpenAI. You didn't give that money to a nuclear reactor company. So now OpenAI has to go give that money to a reactor company, which is actually what they're doing. And then that reactor company now has to grow. And like, well, welcome to America. We don't have enough nuclear physicists. We don't have enough trained technicians. We don't have enough nuclear reactor operators or whatever, engineers to build all these reactors.
So we're going to like import them from other countries that already have nuclear.
No, because there's just not enough of them either. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's all capped. Because you look at the total world supply of people who can build nuclear reactors, and you're like, there's just not enough people in the world who can do this. Germany at one point, and China, and the U.S. and Japan. I mean, there's an international market for these small medium reactors, but that market would have to grow. That marketplace, I should say, would have to grow significantly to support AI, and that's what's going to happen. But it's going to take longer to do it that way because we're not making the investment directly. So, by making these very indirect investments into Google and Microsoft, for example, Google and Microsoft are both looking at, are actually investing in small medium reactors, SMRs. And it's like, well, it's this very convoluted process. And my personal interest is in, can we short circuit that? Like, is there a faster way to do it from an organizational perspective, because we're spending a lot of cycles having us giving the humans giving a bunch of money to Google in terms of ads and what have you, and then Google setting up a venture capital arm, then that venture capital arm investing in OpenAI, then OpenAI going in and investing in a reactor company.
Right.
Yeah,
And
OpenAI having to make its own venture fund, and then its venture fund going to go invest in nuclear. It's like, why did we do all that? Why didn't the people just tax Google and make nuclear reactors? Why didn't we just do that? And there's answers to that. There's answers to why.
Because they're not letting people know what they're doing until they're having secret meetings. They're not saying, "Hey, people, this is what we plan on doing. Come up with some idea. What's your ideas in your area?" And then by the time we know about it, they've already came in and tried to lobby with the people in the government. And we're the last ones to know.
I think there's a much easier way to say it, which is that people are greedy.
Yeah.
And so the greed of the individuals who pay taxes and the greed of the people who run these companies, that all are working together to do this. I mean, I've been in California talking to some of my friends who work in some of this stuff, who are material scientists and have PhDs in this stuff and what have you. And at the end of the day, all it boils down to very simply is people make more money doing what they're doing now instead of making. We right now have the technology to build. People have done it. They've built refrigerator-sized nuclear reactors that could power homes for decades. My uncle used to talk to me about this in the 90s. I thought he was like, I thought he was a crackpot or whatever. But we knew how to make. You can go find these old designs where they're talking about building a nuclear reactor into a car and all this crazy stuff. It's so hard to wrap your head around how powerful nuclear, like how efficient fission, the power you can create from fission is just like mind-boggling. It's really, you really have to sit with it for some time and really wrap your head around it. And if you realize that our whole economy is around energy, we have petrodollar, right? You have the petrodollar was the global currency for the longest time. And so while people are learning about fission and trying to build systems, nuclear systems, they're also weighing that against the maintaining their dominance with the petrodollar, right? And people said, well, we rather run the petrodollar as long as we possibly can as a global organizational system than risk making fission and fusion systems that they knew how to make in the 50s. That Einstein was literally writing about in correspondence in the 50s. We still haven't built those reactors because it's like, well, if I'm an investor or a government and I could build that reactor, do I want to research that reactor, or do I just want to build more efficient cars? Do I just want to build better oil refineries? Do I just want to build carbon drawdown systems? Do I just want to? So instead of building a thing that could really solve the problem for sure forever or for a very long time, like thousands and thousands of years, we do these little incremental solutions because that's how people make more money today, tomorrow, and for the rest of their lives. And so instead of saying, well, we know how to make something that would be better for humanity in perpetuity, we're going to build something that's better for the people around me today. And I think there's nothing wrong with that per se, but sometimes I think that needs to be reevaluated, and people need to say, well, maybe it is time that we turn back on all the nuclear reactors in the US. And maybe it is time that we start building the thorium, the molten salt reactors and all of this that they build in China, but were invented in the US. The Chinese many of the Chinese reactor technology, obviously they have their homegrown stuff. I'm not trying to be disrespectful in that regard, but a lot of that technology really did come from America, and we decided not to develop it because it didn't make good business sense to develop it. But it makes good business sense for China to develop it today. And so that's why they're building things that we designed in the 70s and never built.
And then, do you think that China is going to be way? Well, they already seem to be jumping ahead of us in technology already. Do you think that they are going to? Because there's just this whole technology race, this whole AI race, this whole race. And I heard that AI,
yes and no.
that the actual language that AI actually talks in is actually Chinese. That is like when the AI, the actual language.
I don't know what the hell that's about. That
okay,
I mean,
watching something on something that said that.
No, that's. I mean, I know why someone would say that, but that's silly. That's a silly thing to say. I know why someone would say that, but that's
easier for the AI to understand that language.
There's a very interesting
characters and stuff like that, or something like that, because of how the language is written and stuff like that. It's based in characters.
Sure. That I mean, yeah. I mean, that's something you say after you've. Yeah, I mean that's something you say after you've taken a very large toke, right? I mean that's a fine, like, high thought to have, but like it's not meaning. I don't think it's super. It's like it's hard for normal people to derive any value from that statement. I get why someone would say that, but like what you just told me, I had to really think through what that meant, and I'm like, yeah, okay, but like, how is a normal person going to make any sense? Going to derive the meaning of that statement from that statement. I don't think it's. I think it's. Yeah, I could talk about. I could sort of put together from what I know of first principles why someone would say that, but I'm not a linguist, so I don't. There's a point where I sort of don't know.
I'm gonna find the article and show it to you. But yeah, so Japan. I'm not sure how far they're into the AI. I don't. Do they have? China has its own AI model. And they're saying it outdid.
Yeah, sure.
It's outdone our AI model.
That's reductive. That's not really true.
Okay, so from a technological standpoint, especially, do you think that the way that China is moving, do you think that we're going to be able to compete with them in the future? Do you think that that's what it seems like they're trying to do anyway? They see that China is becoming
that's something that they want normal people to think, but the oligarchs of America don't give a shit if China beats America or not. They don't care. It doesn't impact their money either way. They're getting paid either way. They're getting paid coming and going. They don't care.
Wow.
That's the real issue. The real issue is they don't have any national allegiance. They get paid either way.
And you know what? Let's address that, because I think that what happens is that what they do is they feed us nationalism, but the people that are really making the money don't have any allegiance nationally because they are global business owners. So they're operating on a whole nother scale. It's not about America. It's not about China. It's about, because half of them have businesses all over the world, right? Amazon is going to put $100 billion in money into data centers all over the world. $100 billion. Right. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that I think that we have to realize, that they keep us, what is it called? Like our mind on is arguing about like politics and right versus left, and I'm American. I'm a FBA. I'm a foundational Black American. And meanwhile, they not saying they nothing. They business. I'm Amazon. You know what I'm saying? I'm putting our thing all over the world. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference.
Yeah, and they have ideologies, right? They have ideologies. A lot of wealthy people do believe in, racist, have open, have explicitly racist ideologies or things like this. But they're not gonna let some government stop them from making money. They don't make their money based on what the government tells them to do. They make their money however the hell they want to make, however they can. They're gonna sidestep and dance around that government however they possibly can, and they're not gonna let that stop them from making money. And recognize that they're all sort of I was going to use a really big word. I'm going to avoid it. They're all essentially the same thing, right? The people who are in the government and making all this money, because there are people making millions of dollars from being government officials that they're not supposed, they tell normal people, hey, don't go into government. You don't make any money. And old boy's got like 4 houses and all this sort of stuff, right? But that's the same game. They're all playing that same game. So yeah, you can be like, hey, I'm the government, and Elon Musk is like, yeah, whatever, bro. And then he does whatever he needs to do to like juke you, and the government goes, oh, he's trying to dance around, blah blah blah. You got to pay me $4 million, baby. And Elon's like, yeah, chump change, ho. And he throws a $4 million on him, and then everybody just keeps doing what they're doing. And that's basically what happens on a global scale. They're not trying to, and you'll note that nowhere were my tax dollars involved, and nowhere did I receive any benefit from that. That's just a game they're playing amongst themselves. I don't have anything to do with it.
Right, and that whole Elon Musk thing, that was funny how that whole thing just got swept underneath the rug. Like we didn't just give him all this access to everybody's information, and he just pretend like it didn't have. Everybody forgot about that.
Yeah, and then the Russians and Chinese stole it from him. I mean, that's why it went down like that.
So-called stolen, right?
I'm sorry.
Do you think that I said so-called stolen? Unless I think they probably sold it to him versus stealing it. I don't know.
Well, they paid him to make a shitty system so that they could hack into it. So I mean, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But yeah.
So, do you think this Amazon situation? Do you think that was an attack, or do you think that there was like a system failure? That
AWS has outages. I doubt that was an attack per se. Maybe some attackers triggered it. Maybe some attackers took advantage of it. But it just seemed like a normal AWS outage to me. They do happen, and it's an extremely complicated system. It's not perfect. I mean, people just make mistakes. I haven't read any postmortems. I mean, I don't know, but maybe someone has done some analysis and found there was an attack. I mean, it's not.
I'm gonna say that because TikTok will have you going in circles thinking that all type of things happening that ain't happening. So I just wanted to thank you for TikTok. Be like, let me tell you what happened. Gets all creepy. I think TikTok is like the schizophrenia social media of schizophrenia.
Absolutely. That's a great way of putting it. People call it schizo posting, right? I mean, it's definitely schizophrenic. It's definitely leveraging those thought patterns and the inclination of the human mind to be schizophrenic, to have the capacity of a human to be schizophrenic, is very much what a lot of social media.
Yeah, because I mean, think about this: if you're looking at 15 different types of videos, different subjects on different times with different voices, that has got to affect the mind some kind of way.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's probably not for the healthiest.
So I just want to thank you for your time today, Rick. Where can we find you at if anybody wants to
I mean, yeah, I'm not.
You don't even want to be found. You don't want to be found.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Twitter, AFDUDLEY 0 on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it. I mean,
AFDUDLEY 0.
Yeah. I mean, you can. I don't know. Can I type this to you?
Yeah, I think that's it right here. So if you guys want to check him out on Twitter, like I said, he's been a good friend of mine for a very long time, and when it comes down to he's worked at a lot of different places for a lot of different people. He doesn't necessarily, not to tell his business, but I wouldn't just have anybody up here talking about these things. So I know that there's been some comments in the audience like, oh, he don't know what he's talking about. No, he knows what he's talking about.
I mean, you can go to that Twitter right there and see me arguing. Before this call, I was arguing with someone who is probably worth billions of dollars about some things that they were saying that aren't entirely true. So I mean, and he started it. So yeah,
he started. Right.
I'm not tweeting at billionaires trying to pick a fight with them. They're picking fights with me. So read
Right.
into that whatever you want. Yeah. No, I mean, I think at this point, I don't have a lot of credentials. I don't really do it that way. But yeah, I think if you actually go read my Twitter and you see who retweets me and you see who follows me and all that stuff, then you have to do your research and you'll see, okay, well, a lot of influential people do read my tweets in the crypto space. And does that authority translate over to AI stuff? No, but like I actually did study AI in school and all this stuff. So, feel free to, if people want to actually have a discussion with me about this stuff, I'm kind of interested in talking about it, but I'm also, like, to be frank, at this point in my life, a lot of people on the internet just don't have the ability to really carry on a conversation respectfully. So it's just sort of like, I'll listen to anybody, but people have to really come with some evidence.
Right, and what they're talking about, exactly.
Yeah, I'll read a paper. I can read a physics paper. I can read an economics paper. Show me a journal article that supports what you're saying. Show me an expert. Show me why, if you're an expert, you should be able to explain it to me relatively quickly why you're right. Because I'm educated enough that that's generally the case. Obviously, there's certain details that I'm not going to get, but you usually don't actually need those details to make a persuasive argument. Persuasive arguments aren't really made with technical details. So, if anyone wants to have a discussion with me about it, if they think somehow I'm wrong about SMRs, I would love to hear that. If they think I'm wrong about fusion or nuclear energy, I would love to hear about that. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah,
The
people
AI
were
stuff.
saying about the water, that you were wrong about the water. I think they were saying he's making up things as he goes, and the water is not. They were saying some things, but natural gas fumes are not dangerous. Forklifts inside, for example. China has more coal plants than someone. Ryan has been in the thing going off.
I mean, look.
What the CO2
you can take the transcript. You can take the transcript and give it to ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT to provide citations for everything I say. And then I'm happy to discuss that ChatGPT output with whomever. But I'm not gonna sit here and cite everything. China has more, for example, I'll just do one. Yes, China has a lot of coal power. They've also turned on more nuclear generators in the last 5 years than we have in the last, whatever it is, 40, something like that, over decades. I mean, that's a fact. That's a boring fact, right? Like, we stopped making nuclear generators in the US and they just started making them in China. That's just like a boring fact. Like, I'm not sure why someone would argue with me about that.
Right.
But yeah. But yeah, again, I recommend that people disagree with me, that they go to ChatGPT and then say, ChatGPT, provide citations for these statements, and then it's going to say, I can't find one, and then I will help you. But like, otherwise, like, yeah, just arguing, just having this sort of sophomoric Rick, you're wrong, is like not super helpful.
Exactly. Right. So thank you for we're gonna wrap it up because we're almost reaching an hour and a half. Thank you for being here and coming to the channel. This has been a great conversation. I hope that people have learned some new things. I definitely did. Because sometimes we could tend to catastrophize things, but it's good to have a person that's on a different level from another side of the thing, that's actually working with certain people, working at these major corp that talk to these billionaires, that work for the billionaires, to be able to even express, like, okay, this is what's really happening, because we're on this side that's like, we're thinking like, what's going, like, what could it be, or, oh man, people don't even know what the hell's going on. We don't know what to expect, right? And then you have like some people that say, oh, you're fear mongering, right? You got TikTok that they go, oh no, it's a conspiracy. So no one knows what to believe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm glad I could help.
Thank
It's
you,
always
thank
nice
you.
chatting with you. These are very good questions, actually. Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, thank you guys for checking out the channel, and peace out, guys.
Mission, trying to get it right. Transition, changing the way that I see life. Transition mind. I'm on a mission, trying to get it right. I'm transitioning my life. Making a transition. Ooh, making a transition. Ooh, 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 ooh. Making a transition. Ooh, 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 ooh. Making a transition. I'm on a mission, I'm trying to get it right. Changing the way that I see life. Transitioning